Welcome, everyone, to the top 5 ways to take more listings now. My name's Emily Baker. I'm a MAPS executive coach and co trainer of Take More Listings Now, here with my partner, Aaron.
Yes, Emily. And so why should we listen to you about listings?
Yeah, so listings are the name of the game, right? If you are going to scale, go take your unfair share. Right now is the pristine time to be focused on listings. As we always say, what you focus on expands. I am in the Ozarks, Ozark, Missouri. There's a show, it's like that without the cartel. And I got licensed and started in lead generation. That was what I focused on. And from there, over 10 years, have generated over 1,000 listings. All of our listing agents were closing 75 plus listing transactions per year. And this is the market where I grew up in. It was a shifted market. It wasn't, booming like it was in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, and so Emily, I'm from San Diego, best known for Anchorman, like you, part of a top producing team, averaging over 25 listings signed per month. And so I think the cool thing about what we're going to share today is that we are both still in the game. This is not theory. Everything we're going to share with you is practical, tactical from the trenches in real time also, correct?
Right.
Should we jump into it?
Let's dive in.
All right. So why are we talking about the economist of choice if we're talking about listings?
Yeah, well, going back to when you're the economist of choice in your market, your database sees this and they reach out to you more frequently as a result, right? So what you put out there is what you get. When you know your numbers, there's a lot of uncertainty in our markets, right? A lot a lot of uncertainty with us agents in our market. I can't tell you the amount of times that people go, "Oh, we're in a buyer's market," or "It feels like we're in a buyer's market," or "It feels like we've slowed down." And then we calculate the month supply. And the reality is we're still in a seller's market. So what's the message that we're putting out to our clients, right, Aaron?
Yeah, because they see a lot of headlines and that's all they see. They never read the details of the articles. And yet, if we're not there interpreting the headlines and what it means for them and their plans, they're not turning to us. And so, being the economist of choice, as simple as it sounds, and we'll get into the details on what that looks like, it actually causes more people to reach out to us. It generates more referrals, more opportunities, and it allows us to go take more listings, correct?
Right.
What else, as the economist of choice, like what does that mean? What is it that we're actually looking at?
Yeah. So we're looking at the total active inventory, the total number of properties that are pending each week. We're looking at the number of price reductions per week. We're looking at the solds and we're looking at the expireds. Those are really the 5 KPIs. Now, we're also tracking other things. And we and Take More Listings Now give you a spreadsheet template so you can plug and play in terms of whether that's you, whether that's an assistant that you have, whether if you're on a team, someone on the team can track for you. And again, it's when you see it can feel like in a week, oh, this, right? And then we're going off of emotions. And what we know to be true is that facts trump feelings. So when you track it week over week, you start to tell a story such that if you're talking to someone and they say, gosh, how's the market? Or man, I've heard this, or I saw this headline, you can say, well, actually 79 properties, Aaron, just went under contract last week, which is 10% more over the previous week with interest rates softening a little bit and what's projected, there are more buyers in the market today. So it's actually a great time to sell. That's not saying it's a great time to sell and not putting a fact behind it can feel like, we get the car salesman or, oh, realtors always say it's a great time to sell, right? We want to put a fact to it such that it changes their perspective.
Yeah, so knowing those key numbers allows us to tell the story of the market because they're seeing the headline inventory up, right? I saw it today, inventory, up. Yet what they don't know is that the number of homes going under contract is still strong. They
That's
don't
right.
know that mortgage applications are up 25% year over year. And when we can complete that whole story as that economist of choice, they now listen to us. And the benefit to that, Emily, is that when we're on those listing appointments and we have those facts and we can tell that story, we're now the authority on pricing.
That's right. And going back to pricing, Aaron, Sellers want 2021 pricing today here in 2025. I don't know if that's just us or if y'all are sensing that too or hearing that. And sometimes it's not always the most fun conversation to be having in terms of value. What you can say though is if they purchased their home prior to 2020, right? Or even 2020, so 2021, some of those numbers are still mathing. Yet we can say, hey, the good news is you made a great investment. A lot of sellers currently are underwater, and that's not you. Right. And then again, that gives them perspective, right? Those are great things for those of you who have been in the business a long time too, to be reaching out to your clients and saying, hey, you've got a lot of equity. What are our options here?
Yeah, and I mean, you already mentioned it. In the course, we have a template, plug and play, right? That is a tool that we use not just for ourselves, but for our clients to know the numbers. Because here's the
Right.
question I have is how much more money would we be earning if we had more of our database reaching out to us because they saw us talking about this, right? Or how much more money would we be earning if as we're on appointments, we're getting agreement on pricing such that, we're not having our listings languishing out there on the market. Unfortunately, too many agents are leaving too much money on the table because they're not the economists of choice. They're leaving the consumer believing they know more than we do. And therefore, as a result, unfortunately, they're not being as successful with listings as they could be. Would you agree?
Yes.
All right. So getting sellers to call, who doesn't want this? How do we do this, Emily? My gosh,
Yeah.
why would we want the sellers to call us?
Yeah, well, some of us, may not want to prospect, right? Or our preference is we're never going to pick up the phone. Or, if you're in Texas and the laws this month, right, with the TCPA, DNC, enforcing, right? We may not want to go that route. So we want to stop chasing leads and spend more time taking listings. Who doesn't want to do that?
I mean, here's what's beautiful about real estate, Emily, especially on the listing game, is that there is a way to lead generate that fits everyone's personality style. Would you agree?
Yep.
Because that person who would rather have sellers call them than them go out and call sellers, what does that person look like? Who are they?
Yeah, so that person typically is more of a nurturer or a networker, right? They do better with face-to-face interactions. They prefer to go deep versus wide, right? They're highly relational. It's not a bad thing. Aaron and I go through in our course, there are really four ways to communicate. You have voice to voice, face to face, digital, and print. And no matter what method that we give you in terms of what lead gen lever you need to pull and that makes sense for your business, we give you the four ways. So you can choose, okay, my preference is this. Great, here's your playbook.
Yeah, because if we have a playbook, let's say for print, where we're running a campaign, let's call it direct mail, that's causing sellers to call us. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Absolutely
Or
not. What's interesting is that direct mail, we're seeing the responses depending on what you're sending, right? It all goes back to the collateral. And yet we're seeing the responses increase over last year. In fact, Aaron, we run really hard a direct mail campaign. I had a client today that told me that they're at a 4% response rate on the direct mail campaign from appointments, not even just call-ins, appointments, a 4%, where in the past we would say, hey, you're probably going to be about a 1 to 2% response rate, just people calling you back.
yeah, and sometimes people hear that and they're like, oh, that must cost a lot of money. Well, I had a client budget $500 a month for the month of May, the month of June, and the month of July, right? They budgeted $500 a month each month. So their total spend was $1,500. They listed $93,000 in GCI off of that $1,500 investment. I don't know about you, but that ROI sounds pretty dang good to me. And it was all from our playbook to get sellers to call you, right? In this case, is through direct mail, but it doesn't have to be that. There's a lot of people, Emily, that are also using digital mediums, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. And same thing, right? What's the story you're telling in the digital format that's causing people to reach out to you because the story you just told about the sellers you're helping speaks to them and their family?
Yeah. And on that note, what I would want you all to write down is what's the problem that you solve? So what is the problem that I solve? And what is your solution? What's your offer? Right? So what problem do I solve? So I sell properties 5 times faster on average over the, average agent in our MLS board, right? Of $13,000. Great. How are you offering that out? What's your offer? It's the $1 million offer that never goes out of style is a free home value. Sellers want to know, is my property value going up or is it going down? Going back to mainstream media, Aaron, we know a lot of times it's doom and gloom.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they can go on Zillow, but now the question is that price real?
That's right.
Right? And so that's the offer, right? Is that price real? Let us take a look. By the way, what are your plans?
That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is one of my favorite things we talk about because it's also so easy, whether you choose to have a budget or you do it for free on your socials. It's having that right message, that right story is the key to having them call you.
That's
And I
right.
think we've got that nailed.
So, referral relationships that create consistent referrals. Why is that important, Aaron?
Well, here's what I know. It's a lot easier to work with sellers that know, like, and trust you, or are referred by someone that knows, likes, and trusts you versus a stranger that we had to chase down and convince to work with us. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's how I grew up, right? That's how you grew up, Emily, right? Yet, as we've matured in our business, one thing I know is that creating referral relationships, number one, it doesn't cost anything. And number two, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Because when you think about it, Emily, there are people out there that work in other professions outside real estate that in the course of doing so, they come across people that have real estate needs on a regular basis. If we just brainstorm for a second, there's three that have come on to the top of my head. Estate planning attorneys. Every single month, they're coming across cases that involve families that probably have real estate they need to sell, correct?
Mhm.
CPAs. I've already referred just this month two clients to CPAs because they have questions about their capital gain tax exposure. How many calls a month does a CPA get from clients, right, looking to sell and they've built up so much equity, they want to know, how much is my tax liability? Right? Financial planners, same thing. They've got a loved one that needs to sell to move into, let's say, senior care, which is expensive. And they want to know from that financial planner if, hey, we sell mom's house and get this much money and we give it to you, how much of a return each month will you give us such that we can pay for mom's care? So, what would it look like if we went out and just started building more of those relationships? This actually links back to the one we just talked about, having more sellers call you. Each one of these relationships is worth between 4 and 6 referrals a year. I don't know. I could talk about this for days, Emily.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
but
Yeah, there are so many because what we know is that over 70% of sellers are boomers downsizing, seniors transitioning, or families inheriting property. So one of the things is, when we talk about finding the motivated, no one's motivated, right? Boomers downsizing, they're not concerned around rates.
no.
Right? That's not a typical objection that you're going to adhere to with that demographic, right? Seniors transitioning, they don't have any other option, right? It's just like a job relocation, right? Like they're transitioning. And families inheriting property, they also don't have another option, right? They're inheriting the property they need to sell.
Yeah. And so, the biggest challenge I see with agents implementing this is they don't have a calendar or a schedule set up to actually run this play and have success with it. And that's something that we share about, correct?
Right.
Yeah. While it sounds like a good idea, what do I actually have to do each day, each week to not only start building this network, but to follow up with it in a way that causes referrals to show up?
That's right. And these referral relationships are also really great to partner if you've considered, oh, I'd love to do a seminar, right? Or I'd love to add value to my database with an event that would change their trajectory of their wealth portfolio. These are great professionals that it can go either way.
Yeah, I have 6 new clients on my roster that I introduced this system to over the last 60 days, right? And they've all received a referral in the last 30 days. I forget we're in September now. I'm bragging about August. However, in August, right, every single one of them received a referral, right? A listing referral from a professional that they went out and got in a relationship with. And the
Yeah.
cost to produce that was zero.
Yep. And I'll also just end on this is that a lot of times what I find prevents agents, Aaron, from implementing is, well, I don't know if I have business to give them. Well, it may not be a 1-to-1 ratio of referrals. And that's that drunk monkey that can sometimes come in and prevent us from action. And the reality is, y'all, that attorneys, CPAs, financial planners aren't sitting there going, oh, I haven't heard from Aaron this month on a referral. Their file move, meeting move. That's their job.
Yeah. And the reality is we actually have more referrals for them than they have for us. And we explain that. And the other piece to that is all they care about is, do you have a value proposition that can take care of their client? And if it's yes, then that's all that matters. Uh-oh. All right. So you already said prospecting earlier. Not
Yeah.
everyone loves that word, yet it's a powerful one, correct?
Yeah, especially as the markets are more shifted, unless you're in, the New England area, there are more expireds, canceled that are coming available week over week. And some of you may just prefer to work with strangers, right? Some of you may not prefer to pick up the phone and ask for referrals or pick up, go meet for coffee or you're just more of a prospector, and there's nothing wrong with that. So essentially on prospecting, like I mentioned, expireds and canceleds, that's a big one for a lot of markets.
Yeah. Well, they're up. They're up significantly. And one thing that people always assume is that there's only one way to target that business, correct?
Yeah, which is
In
they
a
think that
T-
they oh
yeah, in a TCP, do not call compliant way, of course, right? But we know that there's more than one way to target expired, for sale by owner, canceled business without ever picking up the phone.
yep.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things that we're always excited to share is those step-by-step lead gen playbooks, whether it's going to the door, whether again, we bring in a little direct mail, whether we're hunting them down digitally also. There's more than one way to go after this business, and it's only going to continue to grow as we see the market continue to shift. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that, as home sales have gone down, right? There are fewer buyers. There are a lot of buyers who have been on the waiting lines, right? There are a lot of buyers who have been sitting and waiting and they're in your databases, or you've been, you call them a B buyer, or you're like, well, if the right house comes up, they'll absolutely buy. That's where we can use our buyers as leverage for prospecting to find them a property, because per NAR, the National Association of Realtors, one of the top two reasons why why a client chooses to hire an agent for representation on the buy side is to find them a home. So from a prospecting standpoint too, and taking your unfair share is using your buyers as leverage.
Yeah, Emily, I closed last week on a property and got a $60,000 commission check doing that exact system, right? I knew where the buyer wanted to be. I went out and I prospected into that community, found someone off market, put a deal together, and it's lucrative.
That's right.
All right. So I think the last one is one of my favorite because when we look at the pre-qual pre-list process, this is one that we got away from when the market was really ripping, right? Pre-pandemic, post, always likes to do that. Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, when the market was really, excited, like all this went out the window. Everyone was just in a rush to get there and get a signature. And now, right, that the market's shifting, these two things, right? Having a great pre-qual, having a great pre-list, such that we are the obvious agent of choice as sellers are interviewing more agents, this is critical. Would you agree?
1000%. Yes.
Yeah. Because what we're noticing is that when we look at agents listing appointment to listings taken ratio, unfortunately, it's moving in the wrong direction. We've seen that trending down. And we can really point to the culprit, which is a lack of a prequal and a lack of a pre-list process. So if you want to increase your listing appointment to listing taken ratio, implementing these two things is the key to doing that. Agreed?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you think about it, how many times have we thought, oh, the seller's not motivated or they're not motivated. It's our job to find their motivation, right? And just to help them make a decision. It doesn't mean that every single person is ready, willing, able, right? We know this. However, it's going through, do you know where they're moving, why they're moving, by when they want to be there, right? What they believe their home is worth and what that is based on. Here's the big one. Are they interviewing additional agents, right? And our favorite question is, who else are you interviewing for the job of selling your home for top dollar in today's market?
Why do agents never ask that question?
Well, typically it's because they're fearful of, if I bring it up, what if they're not interviewing?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think agents don't know how to frame that as a benefit for the seller, right?
So
Not
how
only
would
are
you
they, oh, well, simple. The reason why I ask is because as agents, there's a lot of things that we do that are very similar. Yet, if I know who else you're interviewing, I can better share with you what we do different so you can make sure you're making the best decision for you and your family. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So listen, keynote speaker at MegaCamp was Marcus Sheridan, right? Endless
Yes.
customers. One of the things that he said that we don't do a great job of is differentiating ourselves from the other agents, right? Telling the consumer exactly how we're different from the competition. Yet by asking this question and having it be a benefit to the seller, hey, if I know who you're interviewing, I can better share with you what we do different rather than share all the same things over and over again. Would that be helpful? Yeah, that would be helpful, right? Great. Who else are you talking to? That's a benefit to the client. That's us looking at the competition and saying, we do this, they do that. Here's how it benefits you. We do this, they do that. Here's how it benefits you. So that's how you frame it to answer your question. But
Yeah. And
the
oh, I was just going to say, and as more properties are, more clients are interviewing, right? Most agents are competing against additional listings. Having a pre-list process, setting yourself up to differentiate yourself from the competition is so important. Are you sending a calendar invite? Are we, sending a group text where they're sharing some, photos of the property with you such that you can save them time? So it's a one-step listing appointment versus a two-step.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And this is documented from the
Can you guys
conversation.
hear Aaron?
I can hear you now. It cut out for a minute. Can you hear me? Yes, no?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, you're back also. Anyway, the point is, this is all documented. This is a system that we have because people, oh, what should be in the pre-list? Don't worry, we documented it, we give it to you. All you have to do is plug and play.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
Emily, for the people that have gone through our Take More Listings Now course, right? Those agents, a lot of them were in situations where they just wanted to take more listing and make more money, correct?
Mhm.
Like that was one of the reasons why they said, yeah, that's why I showed up today. What are some of the other reasons as we've looked at the people who've had success through the program, right? What were some of the reasons why they said, you know what, I want to take the program?
Yeah, well, a lot of agents are just tired with buyers right now, right? Buyers running ragged. There's more inventory, which means, buyers are sending them more homes that they want to view versus the 3 to 5 top properties. And they just want control and they want their time back.
1000%, right? We said it earlier also. They're going on more appointments and not getting signatures, so they want to increase their listing appointment to listing taken ratio.
Yep, that's right. Agents also who find lead generation challenging, right? Or exhausting, and they want to make it easier. They want to have fun connecting and converting people versus it feeling like, the 30,000-pound phone.
Yeah, I mean, they hear about all this stuff, but they don't have the practical, tactical baby steps on how to actually implement it, correct?
Yep.
Listen, we also see a lot of people taking the course. We said it at the top. They just want more sellers calling them, right? It's similar to making it easier, but can I just please have more sellers calling me? How do I make that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say the last thing too is agents who really want to build more of a predictable and scalable business, right? Because Gary always says when you hit your listings taken goal, you generally hit your listing closed goal, right? So your closing goal, your GCI goal, what actually matters, right? What actually brings in money. So leading with listings is scalable. It can be a lot of work to get the market share, but once you have the market share and you're consistent, it's really hard for your competitors to come in and take it.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about waiting, I wouldn't. You know, what we do now impacts not just the fourth quarter, Emily, but it's really what we do in the first quarter of next year. Because as we go through this uh, course starting in mid-September, as you start to implement, you're going to start to see leads showing up October, November, December, which are going to be your January, February, March listings.
Right.
And for anyone who thinks that, oh, I just sit back for 6 weeks, right? No, it's 6 weeks of taking action such that by the end of 6 weeks, you already have leads showing up.
That's right.
That's the beautiful thing about being practical and tactical, right? It's not just let me go make a smarter bookshelf for myself. It's wow, they're actually going to make me do something from week to week such that results show up before the end of the course, not once the course ends.
That's
So
exactly right.
we called it Take More Listings Now for a reason, did we not?
Yeah. Pretty straightforward to the point.
If it's what you want to do, scan the QR code. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for us. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day and joining us. And we trust that this helps you take more listings into your business. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week at a launch.